see at every council meeting. So it's great for her to make actually a public appearance. The way I like to operate is to show up and put myself in as many places out into the community as I can, and to listen, to become educated about what people need, about what's happening in the community, and then to consider the consequences of every decision in light of the effect that it has on the people in our neighborhoods and our communities. I recently received a letter from a constituent, and he says that gentrification has reached astronomical proportions in our community. It's become a global phenomenon. Housing is no longer about finding a place to live. Real estate is no longer about providing housing. It's all about the money. We need to change that. We need to make housing about places for people to live and communities to be established and neighbors to get to know each other. So how do we do that? Okay, well, we need to incentivize more affordable, workforce affordable housing. And we want to do it right. When we develop affordable housing, we want to make sure that it doesn't negatively impact somebody else's property. So we need to actually take the time to figure out how to do it, because when we build our housing, I want it to serve our community at an affordable rate for years to come. I want to do it right when we start out. And one of the ways we can do that, I think, is to involve private industry more. We need to find ways to incentivize developers to be a part of the solution, right? And so how can we make it easier for developers actually to build the workforce affordable housing that we need? I think that should be part of the program. I don't think that we can allow our plant to figure that market forces alone are going to provide our affordable housing. We need inclusionary housing ordinances to make sure that it happens. But we also need to make sure that it's affordable to build. So I think we need to work together as a community, both those of us who are renters and those of us who are developers, to figure out ways to make that happen. And I think we can do it. Another issue that's important to our community is livable wage paying jobs. So those are nice words at election time, but the thing is, we need to figure out how to do it. And that's what I've been working on since taking office. The two issues that prompted me to run are workforce affordable housing and people having the incomes with which they can actually afford the housing, making the housing affordable. So last year we had a conference here, an economic conference about community capital. And community capital values existing workforce. Community capital values sustainable economies in a sustainable, environmentally friendly city. Community capital values the culture of a community. And this is something that's apart from traditional investment. But because we brought that conference, the Monterey County Chamber of Commerce has embraced community capital as one of the ways they want to move forward with economic development. Community capital and slow money are going to be part of the countywide business expo, and the Monterey Bay Economic Partnership has embraced community capital approaches into tri-county area-wide economic development and impact investing. And this is essentially a tidal shift, a shift away from strictly for-profit motivation and investment to economic development as community development. Another issue that we have in our community in particular is that we have an increasing, burgeoning community that's over the age of 65, which is very good, but at the same time, we have a diminishing community that's under the age of 21. And so there's a gap in the fabric of our community that I think is something we need to think about in terms of how we support our elders as they begin to need our care. And what I've noticed when I've walked from door to door on the election campaign is that people, their families, are huddled together in their homes trying to meet the needs of their family members in terms of caregiving. And as the caregiving needs increase and the family members rise to the rewards and the challenges of caring for their loved ones, they become further and further withdrawn from community at the time when they need it the most. So how can we change that? Well, hopefully some of the answers will come out of the Community Responses to Elder Care Symposium in September, and we can have some community solutions about networking in our community to care for one another as the need for care arises. So those are some of the issues that are very important to me. Looking back to when I first ran for office, I had never planned to be a city council member. It wasn't in my, long-term plan. But I started to notice the need in the community around me. I started to notice that more and more families were being sort of pushed out of the neighborhood. As I would walk from the store back to my house, there was an elderly couple that has a very nice home, and we got to know each other, and they confided in me that they would not be able to stay in their home if it weren't for the proximity of the food banks, because they needed that augmentation to their diet in order to afford to be in their home. And then they asked me not to tell any of their neighbors that because they wouldn't understand. And that's because their neighbors were not from this area. They mostly had second homes. And so that's a concern. How do we maintain housing for the people who live here? Just neighboring my house, a neighbor went into bankruptcy. His home was foreclosed on, and 2 families had to move out, and they didn't know where they were going to go. These are issues we need to look at in terms of how we consider our policies, how we look at our housing situation, and there are problems we have to solve, and I think we can do it if we work together as a community. Thank you for being here. I hope you'll take the time to sign the list over there. Let us know you were here. Pick up some literature, and I'll be around to discuss issues with you throughout the day. We have hamburgers and hot dogs and veggie burgers. Let's have a good time while we do this. Thank you, everybody.